In Claudia's story there, we saw some pretty distressing images from kibbutz Be'eri. More than 120 members of that community were killed. That's more than 10% of the population. Among the survivors was an Australian family. We have spoken exclusively to father of three, Anthony. He, his wife and his three very young children hid in their safe room for 12 hours while their neighbours were slaughtered. And even once they were freed by the Israeli Defence Forces, the danger was not over.
I could hear all the shots coming over the roof, you know, I could hear RPGs coming past the roof, I could hear tanks over the back starting to shoot them, and I could hear all the machine guns, you know, it was nuts. It was nuts. The only thing going through my mind, mate, was, you know, if they come in here, I'm going to have to kill my kids myself. You know, I didn't want my kids to become prisoners. So I thought I was going to have to kill my kids. But,
You spent hours in there, obviously. How did it come to be? How did it come to be that you managed to get out of there?
well, look, mate, I owe my life and my family's lives to the Israeli army, you know, like the guys that got us out. I was so terrified that it wasn't them, because we found out after a couple of hours that the terrorists were running through the kibbutz with IDF clothing on. We run up the road past our neighbours, so we could hear them moving around in the neighbour's house, you know. We could hear tables getting thrown around, moved around, chairs moved around. We could hear people stepping around in there, you know. I was so terrified that my daughters were going to make a noise and get us caught, and you know, that would have been it. We would have been prisoners or dead, you know. I'd rather be dead than prisoners for those animals. Got down to the end of the street, and we saw a tank on the right-hand side, and I thought, sweet, you know, we've got a Abrams behind us. We're all good. We've got 20 guys around us. This is it. We're out. We're getting out. We ran down the road, and you could just see the terrorists on the side of the road, just blood everywhere, you know. And my son and my daughters had to see all those bodies. They took us out past Alamim. It's a kibbutz about 1 kilometre down the road from us. And when we got out the front of Alamim, there was a couple of burning cars on the road. They got out of the cars, and we just heard crack, 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 you know, like they were shooting from the bushes. When that happened, you know, I just grabbed my daughters and I threw them on the ground. I wasn't subtle about it, you know. I put them on the ground, and I just put my whole body over them, and I just thought, you know, I'm going to take everything if I have to, you know.
How are the kids doing now?
The kids are okay, mate. You know, my son is doing really good still. He hasn't broken down. He hasn't, you know, got crazy or anything. My 2-year-old daughter, someone actually knocked on the room before and told my wife that there's been an alarm. I didn't tell my wife, you know, and then my 2-year-old daughter, she freaked out and she wanted me straight away, so I just grabbed her, held on to her and told her it's all good, darling, you know. There's a lot of soldiers down here. We're safe, you know. We're in a safe place right now.
Obviously, there's always a risk of rocket attack living somewhere like that, but did you ever think anything like this was possible?
No, from the day I moved here, mate, you know. Really? Yeah, I always used to laugh with my wife about, you know, you guys are so naive. You think nothing's going to happen. You all live like everything's kosher, you call it. You know, you live like everything's fine and that nothing can ever happen. It's all good. The borders are protected, but what happens when what happened? And you're unprepared. That's what happens, you know. It'll never be the same again, but, you know, we're going to go back.
You're definitely going back?
Yeah, we're going back, mate, yeah.
Why? Why is it so important?
Because, you know, my heart goes out to all the families in the kibbutz that have lost so much, you know. We were so lucky. All our kids are alive, you know.
What do you want to see happen to Hamas and to the Gaza Strip?
If anyone that knows me in Australia will tell you that I'm not a very forgiving bloke, you know. I try to, but I hold on to things pretty strongly. And because this has affected so many of my friends and family, it's not something that can be walked away from. It's not something that can be sorted out politically. It needs firm and hard affirmative action, and we need to stomp Hamas out.
Some really, really distressing details to hear there, and we can tell you that Anthony and his family are now safe. They and other survivors from the kibbutz have been moved to a hotel on the Dead Sea, and they are doing as well as could be expected given the circumstances. And Janice, Anthony said to me that he wanted to tell the story and all the horrific details because he said it was important for the world to know exactly what has happened here.
And thank you, Ben, for bringing us that report. Is there any sign of when a potential ground invasion of Gaza might begin?
Look, it is hard to say at the moment. The Israeli troops are present on the border and more reservists are being called up every day. The fact that a unity government has now been announced could be another sign that a ground invasion is increasingly imminent. Benny Gantz, the opposition leader, has now been brought into the war cabinet. He's not only an opposition leader, he was once defence minister and quite a respected former Israeli general. One thing we don't know, Janice, is whether the Israelis will want to move in while the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is actually in Israel. He arrived just a few hours ago and is going to be here for the next 24 hours or so.
Thanks so much. That's SBS Chief International Correspondent Ben Lewis reporting from Tel Aviv.